Who was Frederick Douglass? Well, that's an easy question. He was an abolitionist prominent throughout the American Civil War and played a major part in spreading anti-slave ideas, which is a correct answer, but his influence in life go much deeper than that. First things first, where did old Mr. Douglass come from? Originally born as Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey in Talbot County, Maryland, nobody is actually sure how old he is, not even Douglass himself. In his first autobiography, he quotes, "I have no accurate knowledge of my age, never having seen any authentic record containing it." Historians believed he was born somewhere between 1817 and 1818. Even if Douglass didn't know his exact birthday, he chose to celebrate it on February 14th, as supposedly his mother would call him her Little Valentine. Douglass was sent away from his mother at supposedly age 6 to the Y House plantation to work under an Aaron Anthony. After Anthony's death, Douglass was given to Lucretia Auld, then to serve Hugh Auld. Hugh's wife, Sophia Auld, would play a major part in Douglass's uprising. Sophia Auld treated Douglass well, properly feeding him and even letting him sleep in a bed with sheets. At around age 12, Auld began to teach Douglass the alphabet and general literacy. This was short-lived, however, when Hugh Auld convinced his wife to stop teaching Douglass. They deprived him of reading material, keeping any such thing out of his reach. This, of course, didn't stop Frederick Douglass, as he continued to secretly teach himself how to read and write. Jump ahead a couple of years, and Douglass is yearning to free himself from slavery. He boarded a northbound train to Havre de Grace, Maryland. From there, disguised as a sailor, and with documents from a free black sailor, he would take the railroad to Delaware, then taking a steamboat down the Delaware River. Finally, he arrived in an anti-slavery safe house in New York. He sent for his wife, Anna Murray Douglass, to follow in his footsteps to New York. 11 days after their arrival, they married and adopted the last name Johnson, as to not attract attention to themselves. Settling in Massachusetts, this is where Douglass finally received his last name, Douglass. He found some jobs here and there, such as a preacher, autobiographical author, and suffrager for the abolitionist movement. By the time the American Civil War rolled around, Douglass was quite famous for his numerous orations. His words carried weight as he argued that since the Civil War was about emancipating and ending slavery, black men should be allowed to fight in the war. When president, at the time, Abraham Lincoln passed a bill allowing black men to join the military and fight for their freedom, Frederick Douglass aided in the recruitment efforts. In 1863, Lincoln and Douglass conferred to discuss the treatment of black soldiers and plans to move liberated slaves into free territory. That same year, the Emancipation Proclamation was issued, declaring all slaves in Confederate-held states were free. In 1865, when the Civil War was coming to a close, the 13th Amendment was ratified. The 13th Amendment states, "Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States, or any place subject to their jurisdiction." Of course, Douglass's story doesn't end there. Throughout the Reconstruction era of America, he continued to fight for the rights of black people and women. When racist groups such as the Ku Klux Klan began to rise in the Deep South, Douglass supported the presidential campaign of Ulysses S. Grant and beginning a newspaper entitled The New National Era, attempting to hold the United States accountable for its previous commitment to equality. His work continued on, same with the United States. He was the president of a freedmen's bank and was even nominated vice president of the United States, although nobody told him and Douglass himself never acknowledged his nomination. Finally, on February 20th, 1895, at supposedly age 77, Frederick Douglass had returned home after giving his latest speech in Washington, D.C. There, he suffered a heart attack and was pronounced dead. Frederick Douglass was considered to be the founder of the civil rights movement in America, and even today, his legacy is carried on. Douglass was no doubt an influential man throughout the 1800s. Without his work, there's no telling where we'd be today in America.